A couple built this farmhouse, and they haven't paid an electric bill in years. Zero. Not low. Zero. And the internet says the whole thing, land, build, solar, everything, cost $168,000. That's less than a lot of people pay for a used-up starter home with a leaking roof and a $180 a month power bill for the next 30 years. So today I dug through the actual 2026 numbers, permits, post-frame construction costs, real off-grid solar quotes, to find out if $168K for a fully sun-powered farmhouse is genius, or genuinely too good to be true. Before we get into it, I break down the real cost per square foot, the 2026 policy change that quietly makes this more expensive than it used to be, and the exact spots where this budget is either brilliant or a little bit of marketing magic. If you've ever dreamed about killing your power bill forever, hit subscribe now, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly what a build like this actually costs where you live, not just in a Pinterest caption. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's the pitch that's been floating around. A post-frame farmhouse. That's the technical name for what most people call a pole barn house or a barndominium, built from scratch, fully wired for solar, zero grid connection, zero utility bill, for $168,000 total. On paper, that sounds almost unbelievable because a lot of people assume solar-powered homes are a rich person's hobby, something you bolt onto a house you already paid $600,000 for. So naturally, the comments under posts like this are split exactly two ways. Half the people are saying, "Sign me up, where do I put my deposit?" The other half are saying, "There's no way, they're leaving something out." Both of those people are a little bit right. And that's actually the most interesting part of this story. Not whether the number is real, but where the number comes from. Stick with me, because the answer changes everything about whether you could actually pull this off. What is a post-frame farmhouse, actually? First, let's clear up what we're even talking about, because this is where a lot of these videos lose people in the first 90 seconds. And I'm not going to do that to you. A post-frame home is built the same way a barn is built. Instead of a poured concrete foundation with a stick-built wood frame, going up wall by wall, you sink large, treated wooden posts directly into the ground or onto isolated concrete piers, spaced anywhere from 8 to 20 feet apart. Trusses span between those posts, metal panels go up over the frame, and you end up with a shell that looks, from the outside, like a very nice barn, or with the right finishes, like a genuinely gorgeous modern farmhouse. Why does this matter for cost? Because a post-frame shell skips a lot of the expensive stuff a traditional stick-built home needs. No continuous poured foundation trench, fewer studs, faster labor. A crew can dry in a post-frame shell in weeks, not months. According to 2026 contractor pricing, a bare post-frame shell runs somewhere between $15 and $35 per square foot installed. Compare that to conventional stick frame construction, which the National Association of Home Builders puts at over $150 per square foot on average nationally. That gap, that's not marketing. That's real. And it's the first honest reason this style of build can hit a lower number than a traditional home. But, and this is important, a bare shell is not a house. It's a shell. The moment you want a kitchen, bathrooms, insulation, drywall, HVAC, and actual code-compliant electrical, you're adding what contractors call the finish out. And that finish out is where 60 to 75% of the real budget disappears. So when someone says $168K for a farmhouse, the very first question a smart viewer should ask is, does that number include the finish out, or just the shell? The solar side, what 100% energy saving really means. Now let's get to the part everyone actually clicked for, the solar. Runs fully on sunlight, 100% energy saving, is a phrase that sounds simple, but in the solar world, it can mean two very different things, and confusing them is where a lot of these viral posts trip people up. Option 1 is grid-tied solar with battery backup. Panels on the roof, batteries in the garage, and you're still physically connected to the power company. On a sunny day, you might generate more than you use and effectively zero out your bill. At night or during a stretch of clouds, the grid quietly picks up the slack. This is what most net zero homes actually are. It's fantastic. It dramatically cuts your bill, but it is not the same as being independent from the utility company. Option 2 is true off-grid. No power lines running to the property at all. Every watt you use has to come from what you generated and stored yourself, with enough battery capacity to get you through cloudy days without the sun bailing you out. This is a completely different, and completely more expensive, engineering problem, because now your battery bank isn't a backup, it's your entire power plant. Here's the real 2026 pricing on that, straight from current solar installer data. A small, DIY, cabin-sized off-grid kit runs about $4,000 to $8,000. A DIY whole-home off-grid system runs $15,000 to $30,000. But a professionally installed, whole-home, true off-grid system, the kind that could actually run a real farmhouse with a fridge, washer, dryer, well pump, HVAC, and everyday life, that runs $40,000 to $70,000, and large, all-electric homes can push past $100,000. Why the huge range? Because of one component, the battery bank. Batteries alone typically eat up half to two-thirds of your entire solar budget. A realistic off-grid house needs 2 to 4 days of stored power to survive a stretch of bad weather, and that math adds up fast. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars in batteries alone before you've even bought a single panel. So when a video says 100% energy saving, pause and ask, are they truly off-grid with no power line at all? Or are they grid-tied with a big enough battery and panel array that their bill hits zero, even though the wire is still connected? Because those two builds can differ in cost by tens of thousands of dollars, and only one of them is what most people picture when they hear fully runs on sunlight. If this is already changing how you'd plan a build like this, good. That's exactly why I'm making this video. Drop a comment telling me whether you'd go true off-grid or grid-tied with battery backup. I want to see what this audience actually picks. Now, let's do the real math and find out if $168,000 checks out. Does $168,000 actually add up? All right, let's build this thing on paper using real 2026 numbers and see where $168,000 lands. Let's say we're building a modest, efficient farmhouse, around 1,400 to 1,800 square feet, which is realistic for a couple or small family who's optimizing for low energy use, not square footage for its own sake. Bigger homes need more power, which means a bigger, pricier battery bank. So keeping the footprint tight is actually a smart energy cost decision, not just a budget one. The shell and finish out. At $50 to $150 per square foot for a fully finished, livable post-frame home, which includes the shell, slab, insulation, drywall, kitchen, bathrooms, and interior work. A 1,600 square foot home lands somewhere between $80,000 and $240,000. On the efficient, DIY-leaning, mid-tier finish end of that range, you're realistically looking at around $90,000 to $110,000 for the structure itself. The land, this is the number almost every viral we built our dream home for X-Post conveniently leaves out. And it's a huge one. If they already owned rural land, or inherited it, or bought it years ago before prices climbed, that's tens of thousands of dollars that simply isn't showing up in their $168K figure. Rural land in 2026 can run anywhere from a few $1,000s an acre in parts of the Southwest to well over $10,000 an acre in growth areas. If land isn't in that $168K, the real out-of-pocket number for someone starting from zero is meaningfully higher. The solar system, here's where the math gets tight. If this home is truly off-grid, a realistic professionally installed system for a small, efficient farmhouse is going to land somewhere in the $50,000 to $80,000 range. Once you account for panels, a proper lithium battery bank sized for several days of autonomy, an inverter, and a backup generator for the worst stretches of winter. If it's a DIY install, meaning the homeowner did their own electrical and mounting work, which is legal in some areas and not others, that number can drop to $15,000 to $30,000. Add it up the DIY way, roughly $95,000 for a lean, efficient structure, plus roughly $25,000 to $35,000 for a DIY installed solar and battery system, plus land they already owned. That lands you somewhere very close to $168,000. But only if labor was heavily DIY, the land cost is excluded from the number, and the solar system is sized conservatively rather than for luxury, everyday appliance living. So here's the honest verdict. $168,000 is not fake. It's achievable, but it is very clearly a best case, hands on the tools, land already owned number. Not a hire every contractor, buy the land today, live like you would in a normal suburban house number. If you tried to replicate this starting completely from scratch, with a contractor doing everything and land purchased at today's prices, you should realistically budget closer to $250,000 to $350,000 for the exact same result. The 2026 detail most videos get wrong. Here's something almost nobody mentions when they talk about going solar in 2026. And it's a genuinely important update if you're planning your own build. For years, the federal residential solar tax credit knocked 30% off the cost of a home solar installation. That's the incentive that made a lot of these off-grid dreams financially realistic for regular families. As of 2026, that federal residential credit is gone for any system installed this year or later. It doesn't matter when you bought the parts, what matters is the installation date. That means anyone building this exact setup today is paying full price on the solar side, with no 30% cushion. If the original 168K farmhouse was built even a couple of years ago, before that credit disappeared, their real effective cost was lower than what someone attempting the same build in 2026 would pay out of pocket. That's not a scandal. Costs and policy change constantly, but it is the kind of detail that separates an honest breakdown from a viral headline, and it's exactly why I wanted to dig into this instead of just repeating the number. Where the savings are real, and where they're marketing. Let's be fair to this build though, because a lot of it holds up. What's genuinely true, post-frame construction really is dramatically cheaper than stick-built, by a wide, well-documented margin. Off-grid solar really can take your monthly electric bill to zero, permanently, for the rest of the time you live there. No rate hikes, no summer AC shock, no rising utility fees. And a smaller, efficient home genuinely does need less solar capacity, which is a smart, honest way to make the whole project cheaper. It's good engineering, not a trick. What's probably doing some marketing lifting, the number almost certainly doesn't include land, unless they're very specific that it does. It likely reflects a huge amount of sweat equity, the couple, or a small crew of friends and family, doing a lot of the labor themselves, which is completely legitimate, but not something every viewer can replicate. And 100% energy saving is doing a lot of work in that headline. It very likely means their bill is zero, which is true and wonderful, but it may not mean there's no power line running to that property at all. None of that makes the story fake. It makes it a real story about a specific set of trade-offs, land ownership, and hands-on labor, which is honestly a way more useful thing for you to know than a headline number ever was. Okay, you've stuck with me through the actual math, so here's the part everyone actually wants. Is this worth doing yourself? And what would it really cost where you live? Let's wrap this up. Should you actually do this? Here's my honest take, after going through all of this. If you already own land, especially rural land, where extending a normal power line would be expensive or impossible anyway, a post-frame home with an off-grid or heavily solar offset system is one of the most genuinely cost-effective paths to a real, permanent, zero electric bill home that exists in 2026. The construction math checks out. The solar math checks out. This isn't a scam. If you don't own land yet, and you're comparing this to buying an existing house, you need to run the full number. Land, plus build, plus solar, plus permits, plus a septic system, and well, if you're rural, not just the headline figure, because that headline figure is very likely describing only part of the real total. And if you're chasing this purely to save money versus a normal grid-tied house with a smaller rooftop solar system, run that comparison too. A modest grid-tied solar setup with battery backup can often get your bill close to zero for a fraction of what a true off-grid battery bank costs. Because you're not paying to store multiple days of power, the grid is quietly doing that job for you. The real lesson from this whole $168,000 claim isn't, "This is true," or "This is false." It's that the number is a snapshot of one specific couple's specific circumstances. Their land, their labor, their region, their timing. And the moment you understand which of those variables applied to them, you can figure out your own real number instead of just hoping theirs applies to you too. So, genius budgeting or a headline doing some heavy lifting? Honestly, a little of both. And now you actually know which parts are which. If this kind of honest, numbers-first breakdown is useful to you, subscribe, because next week I'm pricing out exactly what this build would cost in 5 different states. Land included, contractor built, no sweat equity, the number regular people would actually pay. Drop a comment. Would you go true off-grid or grid tied with a battery backup? I read every one of them. See you in the next video.